Dumelang Sambanani. Hello, South Africa. A very warm welcome to your #1 youth current affairs show. Of course, Skibalalaga Expressions. This is definitely the place for you to air your views. We are coming to you live from the SABC, Auckland Park, Johannesburg. I'm your host, Jacqueline Mapala.
The 55th National Conference of the African National Congress will take place from the 6th of December till the 20th of December. Kulona unyaka. Kule komiti kuyobe kuxovulwa kwaye kusonyulwa isigqeba sekomiti salombutho nesinamalungu angamashumi anesithoba. And uyayiqonda kaloku umbukeli into yobana thina singabantu abatsha siyathanda urhoqa kwizinto zepolitiki ngenxa yeengxubakaxaka ezixake umxhaka. Kodwa ke umbuzo esiwubuzayo kukuba, will the outcome of this conference inspire young people to be part of politics? Make sure that you do interact with us on our social media platforms. Sive into yokubana nina apho ekhaya nithini.
And you know, Kolosa, this is such an important conversation to be having, especially for young people who are facing the triple challenge around unemployment, poverty and inequalities. They are concerned about this newly elected ANC leadership and whether they can promote and champion the youth agenda as well as the youth interests. But of course, as Expressions, we made sure that we hit the streets to find out what you had to say about this particular conference. And this is what went down.
As soon as the ANC leadership starts to take young people seriously, that's when we can able to take the ANC serious.
There are so many people like youth who are graduated but still are unemployed, like they try to recruit them at 350 kasetse next.
And kudala thina singasebenzi bakithi sihleli siyahlala emkhukhwini while mabafuna abantu bokuthi bazobavotela mara bayakhona ukusibiza ukuthi masihambe siyo represent lapha.
As current young people who are in leadership structures, who are tired of being used by old people, who are saying want to be at the forefront, who are not just Tom, Dicks and Harrys, who are at the fore.
People are living on the streets. Young people are on drugs. They don't care. Look at our CBDs. Every building is dilapidated. Everything is just... ANC is just here to destroy. They must get out of power and give someone else the reins.
So those were some of the comments of young people on the ground, and I think it was so pivotal to be able to include young people in this very important conversation. But I'm not having this conversation by myself. I'm joined by my esteemed panelists. A very warm welcome to Expressions, gentlemen.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, they say too, the best things come in twos. And of course, my co-host Ulonto Ukoloso will obviously be part of this very important conversation, bringing you views from young people around this important conference that's going to be taking place. Gentlemen, let's get into this very important conversation because we wanted young people to be included in it. Dr. Ndau, I think let me start with you. You know, when we look at the top 6 nomination list, why do you think that the ANC branches did not place a lot of importance or value in nominating young leaders?
Good afternoon. Firstly, I think we just have to accept and acknowledge the decision that has been taken by the ANC branches. Of course, we should be concerned that when the population of South Africa is dominated by young people, and young people being the future of South Africa, we are not seeing the ruling party being prepared to give a chance to young people to lead. Of course, there are trends, global trends and African trends. If you look at other areas outside Africa, we're starting to see young people getting involved into leadership positions. And unfortunately, that is not the case in Africa. African leaders tend to stay longer in power, even though they'll express or talk about giving a chance to young people. The unfortunate part is that the trend is that older people want to keep on staying in the positions of power, and they actually see themselves as the one who can provide solutions for young people and not give these young people a chance.
Which is very interesting because when we spoke to young people on the ground, the biggest issue was the fact that they felt that ANC leadership is old. Now, Colin, I want to bring you into this conversation. You are the ANC Youth League. You're a youth arm of probably one of the oldest liberation movement in the continent as a whole. But you guys chose to endorse Zweli Mkhize, who's 66, and Paul Mashatile, who's 61, instead of the youngest nominee, Ronald Lamola, who's 39. I mean, I want to understand, was the youth agenda ever a consideration for you in terms of who you endorsed, or was this really about bowing down to power plays within the ANC?
Look, one of the most important things that young people have been contesting structures. There's a high dominance in structures of the ANC of the older ones, because a lot of young people are no longer having interest in the politics of the ANC. Now, that's what we're trying to do to revive that spirit. But part of the nominees that were there were Mamoloko, who's a former leader of the Youth League. You had Lamola also as part of those who are part of the ballot, who's a former leader of the Youth League. At Fikile Mbalula, who the Youth League endorsed to become the SG of the ANC.
But Lamola is still the youngest in the top six,
yes.
and you overlooked him over. Like, you literally passed him over for Paul Mashatile, and it was unanimous within the ANC Youth League task force to say that you endorse Paul. Why?
The Youth League is the ANC is a democratic organization. It doesn't mean that if Paul was endorsed, there were no any other views. There was a certain number of ballots that you must reach to reach threshold. And Paul managed to lobby to get to that number. But if you can go deeper and look down, we've nominated a lot of young people in the additionals. The whole list of additionals are mainly young people or immediate graduates of the ANC Youth League. It's part of our process of putting a dominated youth NEC. Look at the 200 lists that have been released. You check a lot of people who have been old from exile, and most of them are not appearing there. If you can go deeper to the list that the Kgalebo Motlanthe Electoral Commission released of the 200 nomination names from branches, they are highly dominated by new players who are young, who are products of the ANC. But more must be done. It's a preparation that the next conference, we must elect a young leadership.
But you were in a position to elect exactly what you're talking about. You were in a position to elect young leaders. If anything, you were supposed to be the one that sets an example around the confidence you have in youth leadership, and it was not seen.
Look, the reality is that the ANC is not a new organization. It believes in social memory. For the longest time, structures of the Youth League have been disbanded, disorganized. Now, the fact is, we have not been able to organize ourselves better to take over the ANC in this era. Now, part of the reason we're going to this conference and raise a lot of young people from the floor, some of them, is because at least 25% or 80% must be young people in that NEC. It's a good direction that we're taking as the Youth League.
I think the better direction would have been just for you to nominate young people. You know, Oliver, it almost feels like it's taking back that conversation around young people being ready to lead almost like 10 years behind in a way. And I just want to find out, I mean, can young people really and genuinely trust that this newly elected ANC will be the kind of ANC that will give them a future, or at least build a future for them that they would be proud to live in, a country that they are happy to inherit?
The crisis of the ANC is far bigger than representation. It's anti-young, I agree with you. It's also anti-women. Consider the fact that there are only 2 women in the top 6 nominations, and they're contesting for the same position. So it's a party that has shown its true colors, and you can't blame the leadership at the top. This is the sentiment of branches. So the ANC has an integrity crisis beyond its representation crisis, and it seeped well through the crevices of the party. And nominating young people is not a panacea to that problem. You can nominate young people, but the rot is so deep in the ANC that the problems you identify with the party today will exist in exactly the same young people you identify. The young people in the ANC are themselves not ready to build a future that we can all enjoy and be prosperous in. The problem with the ANC is the ANC. It is not a problem of segmentation within the ANC. And I think we need to start there. Can young people trust the leadership that comes out of this? Of course not, regardless of who the ANC is. If we wake up the morning after the elective conferences, poverty will still persist. There will be no ideas. There will be no new ideas on how to solve for it. The ANC's run out of ideas. There will be no new ideas around our energy crisis. Because if there were, they would have already been on the table. We wouldn't have to wait for an elective conference where there will be quasi-intellectual conversations about ideas for the energy crisis. In fact, the ANC cabinet doesn't even have a consensus on what to do. Gweda says one thing, the Minister of Public Enterprises says another thing, and the President just doesn't know what to do and he defers to them. The reality is, Jackie, that if young people want a better future for themselves in South Africa, they shouldn't look to the leadership, they should look to themselves.
And your predictions for the top 6 in terms of who you think would make the top 6, but I think most importantly, who do you think will champion and promote the youth agenda in this country?
No one. Absolutely no one within the ANC will champion that. My predictions for the top 6 doesn't matter because it's inconsequential. Whoever makes it, the same problems will continue to persist.
Okay, well, that seems to be a little bit of gloom and doom from Oliver Dixon. But maybe as a young person, Kochai, you are hopeful and you're expectant of the fact that this elective conference will be able to have a leadership that represents your interests and agendas that face you on the ground. We continue with this very important conversation after the break. You're watching Expressions. We'll be back.
The top 6 that is nominated and that finds hegemony in the ANC, none of them are young people. So it tells you that the country in itself is driving to a different direction.
Whoever is going to be chosen is not going to help anyone. They've been in power for almost 30 years now, and the youth is unemployed.
ingase kungathiwa kule top 6 kufaka abantwana abalingana nathi so that kuzoba khona bafake mamixe mangisho ukwenzele nabadala bazoba khona nabancane bazoba khona ukwenzele kuzoba khona umehluko because siwaboni manje umehluko.
We can't choose people that are not well experienced in this country.
You need someone even in 90s wa experience wa bona re ma 2000 nanyaka eng ba trouble ba nyaka eng because like no so re phela go a new world.
Welcome back. You are still watching Expressions right here on SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. Sizaqhubeka ke mntomtsha nengxoxo apho sithetha ngenkomfa esiyilindele ngamehlo bovu ANC. Siyabuza mntomtsha into yokubana, will the outcome of the conference inspire you as a young person to be involved in politics? And to unpack this discussion, ndijoyinwe kunye noSizwe noDineo. Masibulise sinamkele Expressions, right?
Right, thank you.
Namdi, right. I mean, there seems to be lack of interest, kubana bacha, in involving themselves in politics, and I mean, that stems from the state's incapability to develop and also encourage citizens, ingakumbi abantu abatsha. Looking at the conference, do you think it's going to inspire young people baqale ngoku bathi nathi siyazi-involve kwi-politics?
Look, I do not think it will ever be up to the old guard for us as young people to determine our space. We need to be organized. We need to take education serious. We need to be active in our communities and speak about our education space. The eldership will never determine what needs to happen to young people. We have to rise and actually challenge that space and say, this is, your time has passed. Entrepreneurship must be endorsed. In fact, it must be funded with everything that we have. Skills development. We are a developing country. We need to invest deliberately in skills development. We find a situation where foreign nationals are able to come and establish businesses. Why are we not seeing those opportunities? Yes, the eldership is failing us indeed, but we are failing ourselves as a young people. We need to really rise. We need to contest positions of leadership in every space that exists in our society so that we are able to condition and push the ideology towards embracing young people, towards empowering young people in this particular space.
Inani labantu abatsha in the parliament is very low, and looking at the nomination list, siyabona into yobana abantu abatsha are not represented. I want to come to you, Dineo. I mean, looking at the number that is very low of young people participating, up at parliament and also with ANC conference, do you feel into yokubana basijongela phansi and our ability to lead as young people?
Definitely. I think, firstly, the only people who will have the youth interest at heart is the youth, you know, and with the youth, it's very difficult for them to be involved in political spaces because I believe that they don't want to get in there because of the political factions that they'll be involved in, you know. It stems from a lot of things that further perpetuate students as well as the youth to not be involved. You know, if you look at the socioeconomic issues in this country, they look at it and they think to themselves, this is way bigger than me, but not just that, the underlying corruption. Those are the things that take away from the merit of actually wanting to be involved in politics in this country.
Wow. And I mean, bensazawutsho kule into yobana zininzi izinto esizibonayo like corruption, greediness and power and all of those things ezenza into yobana abantu abatsha barhoxe. And eyona nto siyifunayo, you know, is improvement in all of this. Do you think this conference will win the confidence of young people?
Look, to be honest, I do not think so. However, it should not be up to this conference. It should be up to the young people themselves. We need to identify what is it exactly that needs to happen for us to take our country forward. We need to go to these branches of the ANC and contest the leadership there at that space, participate. It is incorrect of us to withdraw ourselves from the political terrain when it is the reason why we are under siege as we are currently. We need to go out there. We need to participate. We need to actively be involved in the general development of our communities.
Hey, Ishushi Pisto, we wish we had more time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity.
Oh yes, we really need the involvement of young people because we are the agents of change and hope. We are the ones we have been waiting for. So do not move a muscle. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. You're still watching Expressions, your #1 youth current affairs show. Today we are speaking about the ANC National Elective Conference that's going to be taking place between the 16th to the 20th of December. And remember, our poll question that we want you to engage on our social media platforms is simply this: will the outcome of the ANC conference re-inspire the youth to be more involved in politics? Gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap up this conversation. Malachi, if you allow us, please can you wrap up this conversation? I mean, what is the message that you think you're sending as the ANC Youth League around the readiness of young people to lead within this movement, considering the fact that you didn't necessarily endorse young people to even be in the top 6?
Look, the message that I'm sending is that it's irresponsible for young people to leave politics to pensioners because this is their future. You can't have a 70-year-old planning a 30-year project when you won't be alive to account for it. Now, every young person who's not in politics, is not active in society, that is very irresponsible. We're saying let's all take charge of our own economy, take charge of our own future, and unite to make sure that in the next processes, we take over and have a president of the ANC who's up below 40 years.
Okay. No, it's fine. And I think if it's okay, I think, is it okay for us to just, let's wrap it up with Oliver, Dr. Ndao? I think just maybe a message to young people, just to inspire them to be involved, like 10 seconds. What can you say to them?
Well, I think it's important for young people to get involved. They should go out, identify political parties that they can join in, and make a difference wherever they are.
Oliver, young people, what can they do?
I maybe want to add this caveat to what Professor Ndao said. It's the party political system in terms of partisan politics is not the only way young people can be and should be able to be active in society. There are multiple civil structures through which young people can be participants and agents for change. And I think we should encourage young people to explore all of that, not just politics.
Yeah, thank you. Colin, Oliver, Dr. Levy, thank you so very much for being part of the show. It's unfortunate that we've run out of time, Kolosa, but thank you so very much for watching. It was really important to ensure that we include the youth voice in this very important elective conference that's going to be taking place between the 16th and the 20th. We want you to be involved. Make sure you participate on our social media platforms. What do you think? Watch. SABC will be giving you full coverage of what's going to be going down, right, Kolosa?
Yes, siyabulela kakhulu ngenkxaso yenu kuyo lo nyaka ka-2022. Nibe safe kule festive season. Asinshiyinodwa ke uAbuti Rita is standing by with performance.
See you next year. Bye.
Go. go.